Hi guys, I've got a really cool wine to share with you today. This is the new release of Louis Billard's Vosne-Romanée. So this is the 2023 vintage. Now, I've done a couple of videos on Louis Billard. I cannot speak highly enough about him. He is an up-and-coming Burgundy producer with a background that is absolutely incredible, and his wines are just the same. So let me talk you through a little bit about Louis Billard, why I love him personally as a producer, a little bit about his wines, but particularly the Vosne-Romanée. So, Burgundy producer, young producer, up and coming, 5th generation winemaker. But the 2022 release, so the vintage before this one, was actually the first release under his own label. He has worked at some of the best vineyards in the world, one of which is DRC. He's also trained some of the other highly regarded vineyards all around the world. One of those is actually in Australia. So by far, so if you love your Pinot Noirs or your Chardonnays, you will have most likely come across By Far here in Australia. So incredible background that he's bringing to his wines, but also he's been able to source fruit from some of the best vineyard sites over in Burgundy. So we're talking Grand Cru, Premier Cru, and some of the most sought after villages in Burgundy and arguably the world. So one that I really want to highlight for you today is the Vosne-Romanée. So this is one of the best appellations over in Burgundy. It's also one of the homes to DRC and some of those incredible vineyard sites. I did a review last year on the 2022, so the first release of the Vosne-Romanée. This is a village wine, Burgundy wine, so from across the region, which we'll see is Bourgogne on the label. Then the next tier up is village wines, which are these, so from a specific appellation. And then we go to your single vineyard sites, which are Premier Cru and then Grand Cru at the top of the hierarchy. So I do actually have another Louis Billard here that is a Premier Cru, also from Vosne-Romanée, the appellation of Vosne-Romanée. This is a single vineyard site. It is one of the best Premier Cru sites that you can get. This one is going to be tucked away in my cellar. So I am super excited to crack open the Vosne-Romanée. I absolutely loved it last year. I cannot wait to try this year. So let's crack it open and see how it compares to last year. I've also done a couple of other videos on this producer, Louis Billard, with his Volnay and his Meursault. So Volnay being a red wine, another Pinot Noir, and Meursault being a Chardonnay from the appellation of Meurs. So I find his wines absolutely incredible. The quality and value is just second to none. So this is absolutely a producer to know, really high quality, really good value. It's pretty difficult to find an inexpensive wine over in Burgundy, and the quality of this one is just sensational. So I touched on a couple of other of his wines that I had done a video on, being the Volnay and the Meursault. So in Burgundy, one of the benefits that you have is the styles of wine vary based on the vineyard sites. So the soil type really does change the expression of the wine, and you can have vineyards that are virtually side by side and they taste very, very different. So when I did the video on the Volnay, it was very pronounced on the nose and on the palate, very fruit forward, beautiful bouquet, absolutely sensational wine. Pommard, on the other side of Vosne-Romanée, is known for its structure, so less pronounced in terms of bouquet comparative to Volnay, and you've got so much structure and tannin and grip. It is incredible to try all of them side by side, because the Vosne-Romanée is actually the sweet spot between the bouquet that you get with Volnay and the structure that you get with Pommard. So this is why it's my personal favorite. So this year we've got a beautiful color. We've got a little bit of purplish hue to it, but it is predominantly ruby. Oh, beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. What's really coming through are those cherries. Really, really nice. Bit of plum. All of the red fruits, strawberry. There's a really nice floral note to it. I want to say acacia. Oh, incredible. Strawberry, raspberry. So forward on those red fruits. Really, really nice. Got a nice amount of alcohol and acidity that I can smell on the nose. It does definitely have that freshness to it. I can't wait to try it. Oh, so nice. Beautiful amount of acidity. So much fruit. A little bit less tannin structure than last year. Really nice fine grain tannins. But a little softer. Definitely softer than last year. Beautifully fine and powdery. Beautiful wine. You can tell that I'm swirling it a little bit. I'm really trying to get it to open up. Those red fruits, a little bit of spice. Really nice, much more forward on the fruit. Very soft tannins, very fine, a nice amount of acidity. Little bit of spice, little bit of earthiness, but really much more forward on the fruit from last year. I would say a lot lighter. I want to say probably a little bit warmer in terms of climate, just in terms of the fruit concentration. When you swirl it, there's a beautiful amount of spice that pops through that white pepper. Very nice. It'd be really interesting to see this in a few years, especially comparative to last year, because it's very fruit forward. I definitely think Louis Billard is one to watch, and you can see the comparison even from last year to this year. The price has started to increase. People are starting to see more of that value. Obviously 2022 was his first vintage ever, which is absolutely incredible. The quality that came out of the last vintage. There's a lot of collectors that are starting to catch on to Louis Billard as a producer. Incredible quality, incredible value for money. And the background speaks for itself. The vineyard sites speak for themselves. This is why I love Burgundy wines. I do think this year has more of that bouquet of Volnay and a less of that structure that you get with Pommard. Obviously, it's the sweet spot between the two. That signals to me slightly warmer vintage because the flavour is, there's more ripe fruit. So if it gets too ripe, there's flavour dilution. That's not what this is, but you can tell that it's riper. And generally as well, when it is riper, the tannins are not so harsh. I want to say there's a hint of, aniseed. There's just more and more to unpack with this wine. I love wines where they just keep going. The length is quite long. I want to say not as long as last year, but it does linger and it's beautiful. All of the flavours are pretty subtle behind the fruit. The fruit definitely has the focus this year, but really nice. Cheers.